In the Pokrovsk area, the Russians are conducting a strategic offensive operation. They have amassed a huge number of troops to gain an advantage and break through the Ukrainian defenses. Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrskyi, spoke about this to the New Post. The Commander-in-Chief emphasized that Kyiv is holding firmly onto this logistically important city.
The situation on the front line is indeed tense. The enemy is conducting a strategic offensive operation. They have concentrated most of their forces, creating an advantage in an attempt to break through our defensive line and capture this area.
Syrskyi refuted the claims of Russian propagandists that Pokrovsk has fallen and that Ukrainian troops are surrounded. After the September counteroffensive, which cost the occupiers about 13,000 casualties and allowed Ukrainian forces to clear more than 165 square miles, everything is happening in reverse.
They continue to show this territory on their maps as if it is under their control. But this claim that the enemy has captured almost everything and is about to finish the job does not correspond to reality.
The New Post notes that out of approximately 700,000 Russian servicemen present in Ukraine, Moscow has sent about 150,000 to Pokrovsk. Powerful mechanized groups and 4 Marine brigades have also been involved in the offensive. Syrskyi said that Russia's goal is to encircle Pokrovsk and neighboring towns from the north, south, and east, cutting off supply lines and forcing the remaining population to leave, after which they would carry out the final maneuver to capture the entire Donetsk region. Syrskyi also stated that the defense forces are trying to inflict as many losses as possible on the occupiers.
Our task is to ensure that the level of mobilization of people will be equal to or less than the number of losses they suffer. For 2 months now, they have been carrying out these active assault operations without any material success.
The commander-in-chief explained that Ukraine aims to destroy enemy sites from which drones and command centers are launched, and this requires good intelligence and high-precision long-range munitions.
Our artillery is forced to strike deep behind enemy lines at great distances, which is why the importance of missiles is increasing.
Meanwhile, Russian propaganda telegram channels have circulated a video showing the occupiers taking advantage of bad weather, trying to enter Pokrovsk on motorcycles, on foot, and in battered cars.
Russian occupiers have broken through into Pokrovsk. There are already several hundred of them in the city, according to the 7th Air Assault Corps. The enemy has become more active on the southern outskirts and is advancing using light vehicles. The report states,
to achieve this, the enemy took advantage of unfavorable weather conditions, particularly dense fog. This reduces the effectiveness of our aerial reconnaissance and our ability to strike targets in open areas. According to
Ukrainian military reports, there are now more than 300 occupiers in Pokrovsk. They are trying to reach the northern boundaries of the city in order to completely encircle the agglomeration. Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to destroy the enemy and hold their positions. Since the beginning of November alone, the defense forces have eliminated 162 Russians in Pokrovsk and wounded another 39. At the same time, videos have appeared online showing the occupiers complaining about the lack of water and food. I don't
know. What should we do? The radio is dead. No communication, nothing. There was no food for a while. Nothing. 5. Come on.
In another video, you can see exhausted Russians hiding in a grove. As CNN reports, in recent days, the fighting in the city has sharply intensified after Russian units broke through the Ukrainian defenses and entered Pokrovsk. Despite the fact that Pokrovsk has lost its strategic importance as a transport hub, the city has become a symbolic target and a matter of prestige for Putin. He has repeatedly mentioned it as part of his statements about the so-called liberation of Donbas, so the fall of the city would be an important political signal within Russia. The commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrskyi, said that the intensity of fighting in Pokrovsk has indeed decreased, but this does not mean that the Russians have abandoned their plans to occupy the city. The Ukrainian command has plans in place for various possible developments of the situation. A Turkish C-130 military transport aircraft has crashed on the border between Georgia and Azerbaijan. This was reported by the Turkish Ministry of Defense. Search and rescue operations are being carried out jointly with the authorities of Azerbaijan and Georgia, reports Anadolu Agency. According to the Turkish Ministry of Defense, there were 20 Turkish armed forces personnel on board, including crew members. According to TV reports, the 4-engine C-130 Hercules military transport aircraft belonging to the Turkish Air Force took off from Ganja Airport in Azerbaijan. At the time of the crash, it was flying at an altitude of about 8 kilometers. According to Gaza, the Turkish military aircraft disappeared from the radar of Georgia's air navigation service a few minutes after entering Georgian airspace without sending a distress signal. According to the service's statement, communication with the aircraft was suddenly lost, and immediately after the incident, search and rescue operations were launched in accordance with established protocols. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev called Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in connection with the crash of the Turkish military cargo plane. He expressed his deepest condolences to the President of the Republic of Turkey, as well as to the families and loved ones of the fallen servicemen. The President of the Republic of Turkey thanked the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan for the phone call and condolences. During the phone conversation, it was noted that the relevant state authorities of Azerbaijan and Turkey are in contact regarding the crash. Recently, warm relations have been developing between Azerbaijan and Turkey. For example, on November 8th, the Turkish leader came to Baku to attend a military parade with Aliyev on the occasion of the second anniversary of the victory in the Karabakh War. A battalion from the ceremonial regiment of the Turkish Presidential Guard also took part in the parade. At the conclusion of the parade, Azerbaijani drones and Turkish Air Force F-16 fighter jets flew over the city.
The FSB of Russia stated that the organization Bellingcat, together with Ukraine and Britain, allegedly planned to hijack a Russian MiG-31 with a Kinjal missile on board.
Earlier this year, I received an unexpected email message in which an unknown individual, whose identity was not revealed, proposed to hijack a military aircraft.
It is claimed that Ukrainian intelligence allegedly tried to recruit Russian pilots and offered them up to $3 million to hijack a supersonic fighter jet and deliver it to a NATO base in Romania. There, supposedly, it could have been shot down by air defense systems.
They sent me photos and videos showing a large sum of cash, supposedly prepared for me after the hijacking.
The pilots were also allegedly promised foreign citizenship and a better life abroad. As for why the Russian special services created and distributed such a video about their supposed successes, one can only guess. Ukrainian intelligence has demonstrated that it brilliantly plans its operations. Earlier, a Russian pilot flew a Mi-8 helicopter of the Russian armed forces into Ukraine. The pilot said that he took off from the Kursk airfield and headed toward the Kharkiv region. And near the settlement of Shebekino, he flew at an extremely low altitude of 5 to 10 meters, maintaining radio silence. This was a special operation by Ukrainian intelligence that lasted more than 6 months. For their part, the Russians claimed that the flight was caused by navigational errors. On June 1, 2025, the Security Service of Ukraine carried out a special operation called WEB. At that time, 41 Russian aircraft were hit. Among them were mainly strategic bombers. It was reported that drones struck 4 military bases: Belaya, Diaghilevo, Olenia, and Ivanovo. Operation WEB was unprecedented in terms of the depth of its impact. Ukrainian drones struck targets at a distance of more than 600 kilometers, covering a third of Russia's territory. The head of the Security Service of Ukraine, Vasyl Malyuk, stated that for Russia, the cost of the strike on its aviation amounted to $7 billion. The Ukrainian Defense Forces struck the Saratov oil refinery, the maritime oil terminal in temporarily occupied Feodosia, and several facilities in the temporarily occupied territory of Donetsk region. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Thus, the strike on the Saratov oil refinery was carried out on November 11th. The facility produces more than 20 types of petroleum products and is involved in meeting the needs of the Russian occupation army.
A series of explosions was recorded, after which a massive fire was observed in the target area. The results of the strikes are being clarified.
Regarding the maritime oil terminal in temporarily occupied Feodosia, the General Staff noted that it is a key hub for supplying fuel and lubricants by sea to the temporarily occupied territories in southern Ukraine. It is known that the tanks on the facility's grounds were hit. The extent of the damage is being clarified. Ukrainian defenders also struck the occupiers' logistics warehouse in Donetsk and a concentration of personnel near Ocheretin.
Strike UAVs reached their target areas. The results are being clarified. The defense forces continue to take all measures to undermine the military and economic potential of the occupiers and force the Russian Federation to cease its armed aggression against Ukraine.
Meanwhile, on November 11th, an airspace restriction regime called Plan Carpet was introduced in Orenburg. The city is under attack by drones.
Drone! Unbelievable.
Earlier, explosions were heard in Tuapse, Russia. Port infrastructure was attacked. The Sun reports that the strikes were carried out with Flamingo cruise missiles.
A fire in Moscow and a real disaster in Krasnogorsk near Moscow caused by the careless demolition of a ski complex. Locals are in shock from the aftermath of the demolition on the ground.
It's like some kind of apocalypse, honestly.
On November 11th, construction materials caught fire at a residential complex site on Ostashkovskaya Street. Residents shared footage showing smoke visible from nearby streets. The flames were quickly extinguished. And these are shots from Krasnogorsk near Moscow. This is the moment of the demolition of the Snezhkomsky complex, during which cars and windows in nearby houses were damaged. The footage shows a large concrete piece of the structure falling from the top and shattering on the ground. Pieces flew dozens of meters, damaging parked cars and windows in a residential building.
Look, their car got smashed. And here the trees got knocked down. Right here, a woman with a child in a stroller was almost hit. And here on the 5th floor, we have neighbors. Their window was shattered.
During the collapse of Snezhkom, a wave of earth and construction debris engulfed a passerby. Judging by the footage, a wall of earth and structural parts fell on the man. He fell onto the road. A 34-year-old resident of the building next to the complex was also injured. She suffered a cut on her nose. In the residential complex located next to the ski center, the strong shaking caused cracks in the walls and tiles inside the apartments.
Here's another crack in the hallway. Some of the tiles even popped out completely, it seemed.
According to local telegram channels, during the demolition of the Snezhkom complex in Krasnogorsk, workers were dropping blocks from above to the ground using a cable. Although in response to earlier complaints from local residents about the demolition, they were told that the complex would be dismantled in a controlled manner. The Russian Investigative Committee reports that a criminal case has been opened due to violations of safety regulations during construction work.